There was no movement from either car. Blakey was out, but not unconscious because he had visions of being a boy, peeking through a small basketball-shaped hole of darkness towards the light. Even the boy couldn't fit through the hole, so he drew the opening bigger with his chunky pencil, then squeezed through and escaped. There was a shrill whistle blown and shouts for him to return, but he didn't. He had to get away, and the adult Blakey, the one in a crumpled car in a ditch, had to wake up. There was a cold voice.
3 miles south.
Blakey awakened and stumbled out of his totaled truck. Groggy and unbalanced, he still had wherewithal to grab his trench club. He dragged it on the asphalt as he tried to straighten the odd angle his body had taken. The voice trapped in his truck chimed again politely.
1 mile south.
The other driver finally emerged, holding his bloody head, screaming obscenities before he even had his balance. Then the shapes burst out of the dark and pounced on the driver, rending him into pieces in seconds. He could not manage a full scream as invisible forces silenced him. Blakey panicked for a retreat. He remembered that the town synagogue was behind him on top of the hill and knew it was his best and only option. "Better move fast," the voice warned. He ran and his knee buckled with pain. Blakey slipped out of sight into the trees just as another car foolishly slowed down in the intersection. He could hear the shapes attacking and the driver speeding off. He reached the blacktop parking lot and then heard a shape coming up the hill fast through the trees. He moved as fast as he could for the closest door, still fighting his swelling knee. "Better look behind you." As soon as he heard claws scraping on pavement, he spun around just in time to swing at the shape that sprang at him from the dark. Blakey hit it square in the skull with a deciding crunch. It writhed back into the dark, retreating from the pool of illumination created by the streetlight. He paused, tempted to follow and finish it off, but realized he didn't have the time. Blakey resumed his retreat for the door, but was hit from the side. Tackled to the hard asphalt, knocking the wind out of him, Blakey managed to get the club up, hand on either end, just in time to block the maw of teeth chomping for his face. He jerked the head of the club against the shape, knocking it off of him. He swung on it from the ground. The shape was stunned and scrambled for the dark, but Blakey quickly got to his feet and smashed it in the back of the head. Once again he heard the cut of claws on asphalt and spun around, catching the next shape fully in the head. The blow was so powerful that the shape was instantly killed, but the club splintered in collapse. "Now you're done for. Run!" Rabbi Wormstein was fortunately working late. Reading The Exorcist at his office desk, Wormstein clutched his chest when Blakey violently banged at the front door. Wormstein scoffed, used a candy wrapper for a bookmark, and shuffled to answer the door, muttering profanities in Hebrew. Along the way, he retrieved his nightly cigarette from behind his ear and lit it. Usually soft-spoken, Wormstein arrived at the door and yelled, "Who is that? And at this time of night?" Blakey beat on the door again. "Come on, Rabbi, let me in." He peered over his reading glasses to the front door. He was shocked but recognized the voice. "Arthur?" Wormstein fumbled at the double lock, sensing something was wrong. Blakey practically bowled him over, deadbolting and chaining the door behind them as fast as he could. "Arthur, what is this?" the rabbi questioned, but Blakey searched madly for something to barricade the door. The hallway bench was perfect. He slid it over and propped it against the door handle. "Thanks, Rabbi." The instant Blakey had the bench secured, a shape hit the door full force. The rabbi jumped back with a hand to his chest. Another ferocious hit popped a hinge off, and it ricocheted down the marble hallway. They both retreated from the door in unison. All the rabbi's confusion turned to fear. "Something's after me," Blakey explained. "I can see that. What's after you?" The rabbi still had his cigarette and puffed nervously, squinting through the smoke. "Something bad," Blakey assured him as he retrieved chairs to pile on the barricade. The door was rattling and booming in an irregular rhythm. "All right, I'll call the police." Wormstein retrieved his phone from his pocket. He never looked smaller to Blakey than at that moment, shrinking at every boom from the door. No, it won't help. Blakey ran to the receptionist's office, grabbed the desk, dragged it over and shoved it against the door. The rabbi's skepticism held, "Arthur, I think the police... Trust me, they'll get us before the cops get here." Blakey tried to slide the office's 6-foot filing cabinet, but when it proved too heavy, he tipped it over with a thunderous boom and slid it against the desk. The rabbi had no clue what could be chasing Arthur Blakey, having always thought he was the type of man who could take care of himself. The rabbi followed Alice's case closely in the news. She was a delightful girl who would often come to events and services at Temple. Wormstein was heartbroken for Blakey and Kate, but he never expected to see Blakey so unglued. This worried Wormstein more than what was outside trying to get in, because he didn't yet believe this wasn't some solvable mess concocted by a grieving and perhaps insane father. They will get in? Who will? Is it thugs? Punks? Art? Is it skinheads? Blakey, still frantically assessing what to do next, fumbled for a description. Monsters, Rabbi. Big fucking monsters. He went to the opposite end of the hall for the other heavy wood bench and dragged it back, propping it against the door. Blakey was finally satisfied with his barricade and took a turn on the rabbi's cigarette. The rabbi was lost, his mouth hanging open, staring at Blakey. "Monsters?" he questioned. Blakey had a sudden realization. "I forgot. Are there other exits here?" "The other two are metal security doors." The rabbi thumbed in their general direction. The banging then suddenly stopped. They both looked toward the door. Something landed on the roof. The rabbi followed the scurrying sound with fascinated distress. "There's an access door up there. It's been blocked off for years," he explained. "Won't matter, Rabbi. They'll get in." Blakey spoke with growing dejection. "Who, Arthur? Who?" He watched the ceiling, listening to the muffled destruction. "I told you already. They are monsters, Rabbi, live in the flesh. Tear your limbs off and chew your face monsters. Monsters, Rabbi." Blakey looked at the building map on the wall for the best escape or hiding place. "Art, what's really going on? You look like you've been in a car wreck. You clearly need the police or an ambulance or..." Before he could name what Blakey needed, there was another thunderous smash at the door, and this time the weight had grown. The rabbi jumped back. He gave Blakey a puckered grimace and stepped to the door, mustering some authority. "Whomever's there, I have called the police. There is a station not a mile from here." The rabbi pointed as if they could see. "They are on the way. This is a house of worship, and I am not going to let you terrorize us or damage this building." He raised his voice to sermon level. "You had better leave right now." There was a brief silence, and the rabbi seemed pleasantly surprised at the result. Then there was such a violent hit against the door that the 3-inch thick wood split in the middle with a percussive pop. "You listen here. I don't put up with this kind of crap." The door strained at its hinges. Another powerful hit, and Blakey's entire barricade slid towards them, bunching and pulling up the carpet. Through the thin but widening crack, the rabbi tried to make out what was on the other side. The moment he stepped closer to get a better look, a shape reached through the thin gap they had achieved and swiped at the rabbi. The gangly, powerful arm jutted at him like a piston. Its long, knotty, jointed fingers clutched and wiggled with furious desire. The rabbi cupped his mouth as if his heart might fly out. He retreated past Blakey, finally understanding and sharing the need to flee. They both pulled back down the hall towards the basement. "Got a gun?" Blakey had to make sure. "What?" "No, of course not." Wormstein was almost offended. "Any weapons?" Blakey pressed. "This is a synagogue, Arthur." Trapped at the end of the hall, they both still watched the front door. "Kitchen knife, baseball bat?" Blakey clenched his fists as if holding weapons. It took a moment to register, but the rabbi shrugged. The intramural equipment? Downstairs? Blakey rushed downstairs. Where? The front door was almost open, rattling with an inhuman vibration. The rabbi remained at the top of the stairs. Blakey yelled after him, "Come on!" Rabbi Wormstein broke his spell and shuffled his fastest down the stairs, closing and locking the door behind him. Wormstein flicked on the lights and pointed to a closet towards the back. Blakey maneuvered through a basement filled with chairs and folding tables. The rabbi searched his key ring, knowing the closet would be locked. Blakey at the closet tried the knob. "It's locked, Rabbi." Wormstein finally arrived and unlocked the door. Blakey dived into the boxes and raided shelves, having no time for a respectful search. He tossed out footballs, jump ropes, and tennis rackets. The violent din of the front door, finally collapsing above, caused them both to look up at the ceiling. "Was that the front door?" the rabbi whispered as a thunderous flurry of footsteps moved across the synagogue. The sounds upstairs were like nothing the rabbi had experienced or imagined. There were no boots or shouting because they weren't soldiers or Nazis. These were clawed feet, wide bounding gates, light and savage with animal speed. He could hear two groups searching the synagogue. Wormstein hollowly declared, "There's no such thing as monsters." Blakey gave the rabbi a pointed look. "Yeah, shame you don't have some ruby slippers." "Here we go." Blakey found something. "Now they're in my office," the rabbi said with a gasp. Blakey had found two aluminum T-ball bats, barely 24 inches of metal each. He flexed them in his hands and doubted their worth. Cringing at the sound of bookcases falling above, the rabbi pushed past Blakey to the back shelves where there was a box of crappy Manischewitz wine. He deftly popped the screw top and chugged half the bottle, wincing at the taste. Life had little surprise left for the rabbi, dulled to all the trauma long ago. With a wipe of his mouth and smoothing of his hair, his demeanor changed. He resumed his official rabbi persona. Above, something pounded on the sanctuary's pipe organ, creating a gothic atonality. Then the shapes gathered at the basement door. Blakey and the rabbi could hear the frenetic sniffing at the quarter-inch gap between the door and the floor. "It's shit, but want some?" The rabbi offered Blakey the bottle. Blakey took a hearty chug, made a sour face, and handed the wine back. The rabbi held the bottle under his arm as he put a hand on each bat. "If they are monsters, and that is the mother of all ifs, then maybe this can help." The rabbi then blessed the aluminum T-ball bats, "Elohim Yavrech, et Hanishkim Ha'ala, Kadishe Ha'av Hamiskin, Vehameshuga Haza Yukal, Leharog et Hadrakonim Shlu." The basement doorknob jiggled, and when it would not open, it was violently yanked off. The inside knob bounced down the stairs with a series of crappy clunks.